Welcome to Afros in the Diaspora. My name is Sarah. I am your host, and together we will vent, rant, laugh, and cry as we discuss the highs and lows of being an immigrant. Stay tuned for stories that will inspire, inform, entertain, and give hope. This is Afros in the Diaspora. Welcome back to another episode of Afros in the Diaspora. Today, our guest is an honorable doctor, Dr. Chinenye Nwoke. Welcome to Afros in the Diaspora. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. This is exciting.
This is so exciting. Chinenye and her family are one of the first people I met in Canada as an immigrant. Like on the third day that myself and my mom were here, that was when I met you and your family through your mom. And it was just a chance meeting where like we were outside a building in school and your mom who used to work at the school just saw us and she's like, these people look Nigerian. Let me say hello. And that's literally it. And, she said hello to myself and my mom. And then we started talking. She took us to you people's house. She took us shopping for groceries and then took me back to my place where I was living. Like she was a mother and she still is. And, your family is like my family now. And I just remain grateful for that day because we felt so isolated and it just gave hope and light to us that day. So I'm ever grateful.
Your family always, Sarah. So it's always exciting to see you, hear from you, and connect with you. Always see all the exciting things that you're up to these days.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Okay, so we're going to start with two icebreakers, right? We're going to get into the riddles. So I have a riddle for you. And knowing that you're a doctor, I know that this is light work. Like this is easy.
Okay.
So, growing up, we used to play this game, myself and my siblings with like my big cousins, and we'll play these games of like answering riddles. And if you get a riddle, you get like an extra spoon of rice or something, right? So we used to play those games. You have 1 full minute to answer the riddle, and you get a hint. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So it's going to be really simple. Don't even worry. Like you're a brilliant person, so I'm like you got this.
I hope. Let's see. Let's see.
Yeah. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. I run through hills, I veer around mountains. I leap over rivers and crawl through the forest. Step out of your door and you find me. What am I?
That's an interesting one.
Yes. Do you want me to repeat it and give you a hint?
Yes. Run through hills. Okay.
I run through hills, I veer around mountains. I leap over rivers and crawl through the forest. Step out of your door and you find me. What am I? And the hint? You walk on it. Your time starts now.
So I walk on it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say the ground, but that sounds so cliche.
Yeah, but like it's not just the ground. It's close, but not quite there. I veer
The feet?
around mount. No, open your door and you see me.
I don't see anything when I open my door.
You have like 20 more seconds. Come on, you got this. It's a road like through the forest. It's there. I think I even just said the answer.
The forest?
No. Oh, you didn't catch it. Okay. Do you want me to say the answer?
Yes.
Roads. The roads. So like,
Oh.
yeah, through hills when you're going on a hike, there's a little path of road, over rivers. Anyway. It's a very
my legs, my shoes. Honestly, my brain is like always thinks like the complex answer to things before it even gets to the easy part. So I would never have guessed that.
Oh, and the way I also said the question is also very tricky. It's like I used too much English for the for the question.
That was a good one.
Yeah. Okay. So our next icebreaker is growing up, like again, back to growing up. Our parents and like grown-ups used to tell us these like things that if you these weird notions that now that we're older there's a better understanding, and it's like that doesn't make sense. So like I remember this is my most common example. It's like I was told as a kid if I swallow chewing gum I would never give birth because the chewing gum would go and block because the gum will go and block where babies come
Oh
out
yes.
of. So like those really silly things that now that like after all the schooling that I've gone to, when I think about some of those things, I'm like, why? Why?
Yeah, I definitely heard of that one. I think they said something along the lines of the gum will stick to your organs or something.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and we
yeah.
believe those as kids. That's interesting.
It's so interesting. So do you have any that you remember right now that you heard growing up that now that you
I
think
think a
about
couple
it?
of ones that I mean the one of that they tell everybody that, oh, if you pick money on the floor you turn to yam or you turn to an animal just to instill discipline in us, I guess. That was a, a very weird one. Obviously now it's like, hey, money on the floor, okay.
Yeah. Now people actually look out for money on the floor. You know what's actually interesting
Hmm.
about that one? I think because growing up in Lagos, a lot of people back, when they do juju and like spirituality and whatnot, so they're looking for people to use as quote and unquote sacrifice, right?
Hmm.
So I remember going to school as a kid. If you see money on the floor and you touch it, you turn to yam. Like I remember my mom telling me, and there are so many Nollywood movies that supported that theory too.
Hmm. Oh yes.
Oh my goodness!
That's insane.
Which other ones did you hear?
Honestly, there were so many.
So many. Like if you swallow the seed of a fruit, the fruit like it'll start growing on
Will
your
grow.
it'll start
Hmm.
growing in your
Yes, yes.
belly.
Hmm. I heard that one too. There are many other ones like, oh, that if you're having hiccups and you put like a strand of thread on your head, the hiccups will stop. Like there was so many very, yeah. If you put like a strand of
Really?
like a thread on your hair, like the hiccups stops. I tried that once on my niece and that did not work. Let me just tell you.
One that I tried was, that if you want someone to forget something, pluck an eyelash from your eye and make sure they step on it and they'll forget anything you want them to forget. So I did this a lot
Hmm.
for my lesson teacher as a kid when I did not do my assignment and it did not work. It did not work. I still got some lashes on my behind because I didn't do my homework. But it was just that one was so superstitious. I don't even understand why I believed it in the first place. It never worked. Ugh.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of those stories, like nobody actually experiences them by themselves. Someone just tells them and they tell people, and that those people tell other people. So it's more of hearsay than actually, okay, I've experienced this before and this is what happened, or I've seen someone turn to yam before when they picked money on the floor. So
Yeah.
those are very interesting stories that some of them were used to scare us,
Yeah.
and some were just used to like teach you a lesson, quote unquote.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes adults just use kids to catch crews to just like let's just let's just mess with them a little bit. And as kids will believe it. I'm like, oh, is it true? Oh wow, my mommy said that if and we just spread it like
Hmm.
that in school and then anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yes, thank you for engaging with me, indulging with me in the icebreakers. Let's get into our topic for today. And today again is just going to be a conversation, right? We're trying to just talk about being an immigrant, some of the challenges that comes with it, and how we try to overcome and move forward, and build homes for ourselves and build a future. But we'll be talking about some of those challenges, especially as a student adjusting to life. We'll be talking about mental health issues amongst immigrants. And that's something that's actually very much overlooked because a lot of people are like, oh, you moved from Africa, you should be so grateful. Like there's this idea that you should be just so
Hmm.
grateful that, you should just wear rose colored glasses through life. And that's just not how it works. So yeah, we have a whole lot to talk about today, Chinenye, and I want you to start with just telling us a bit about your background, your own immigrant story. Just tell us about it briefly.
Okay, so my own immigrant story, I would say, may be a little bit different from that of many students. And I say that because I immigrated to Canada in the economic class. So I immigrated to Canada as a PR.
Mm,
Okay, so even though like I came into Canada, to be a student and went straight into like I came into Canada and went straight into university,
mm,
I came in as a PR as opposed to like a student permit. Okay, so my experiences may be different in that aspect. But coming into Canada, I remember I didn't even come like, a week before, a month before to kind of get settled in. My whole family were all the way in Calgary, okay, like my siblings, I should say, were in Calgary. My parents were elsewhere out of the country. My siblings were in Calgary. And I came by myself literally all the way to Toronto. Okay, so I think for me it was a very interesting experience. I remember my first day I cried. Okay, my first day in university I cried because I didn't have a phone and I was trying to like reach my cousins that came with me or drove me down from the US. Okay, so I went to the US for a summer holiday, and then from there we drove literally to Toronto. They dropped me and they left, and I didn't have a phone, and I was trying to reach them to find out, oh, have they left? Where were they? And I couldn't find them. I wasn't very sociable back then, so I also didn't even feel comfortable asking someone, "Hey, can I use your phone to like send a text or send a message?" There was no phones in the room, obviously, in residence because I stayed in residence. So I think it was definitely isolating. Obviously, big university feel is very, very isolating because I knew nobody, literally. I knew nobody. Went straight to school, went straight to residence, and kind of just started life afresh. I didn't have like siblings or friends down the street where I could just, they could help me like acclimatize, get groceries, even buy things like, because I came with nothing. Literally, I had no bed sheets, I had no duvet cover, I had
Wow.
literally absolutely nothing, no soap, sponge, like, so I needed to go shopping to like buy my essentials, right? And I didn't
Yeah.
have anyone to do that for me. So I think it was quite hard in that sense of just trying to get myself settled and trying to get myself acclimatized to the environment. And I also came during Fresh Week, like or Freshers Week, as some universities call it. So like everybody was literally like in a party like mood, and me, I was more like, okay, I have so much to do. I need to sort myself out before classes start.
Yeah.
So I also didn't even get to enjoy like the Freshers Week that was going on as well at the same time because I was kind of by myself trying to sort myself out, get all these things, get settled in. Whereas everybody literally was just having the time of their lives when I would see them like walk past like the courtyard and they were having like the time of their life literally. So I think that was a very good times when I think of it. But that was pretty much my first week in Canada, I would say. Coming here to start school in a big city, big university, and it was a different feel. I feel like if I could go back now, honestly speaking, I think I would choose a smaller university
Mm.
feel, and that's something that I didn't know back then. A lot of people don't know, but I would choose a smaller university because you kind of get that community feel that you miss from big universities.
Right.
And I later got that experience when I did like my master's and my PhD as well, like in a smaller university, and I loved it so much. And again, all experiences were for the best, or they prepared me for life, as people would say.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. See, that freshers week of a thing, I moved here for my masters and I just remember I used to see these things in like Hollywood movies, like when it was like, oh, it's freshers week, oh, it's freshers week. But I still don't fully even understand exactly what it entails because it just kind of went over my head. And because again, I was
Yeah.
so isolated, I did not know what was happening. I did not really know how to find out information. I didn't know how to figure out like learn about what was really going on, not to talk of show up for them. So like it just over my head, went over my head. So yeah, feeling isolated is like it plays into your experience 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about some of those struggles and challenges. And you already mentioned, we already even just talked about some of those, that feeling of isolation and lack of like community. But can you talk about some of the things that you faced? And you've done like three postgraduate or post secondary degrees. You've done your undergrad, you've done your master's, you've done your PhD. You are a full doctor right now. So, like, talk about some of those things in your different levels, even of education, of being a student, in those different levels, and how what have been those challenges that you faced in your first degree but you didn't in the second, or something that was a challenge throughout your educational career.
Okay. Definitely. I think so. In my undergrad specifically, I think my first semester I definitely struggled. And this was both academically and socially, I would say. Like even trying to like just find my own community within the university itself. I came from like, secondary school where I had so many friends. Like I was so social. I had so many friends. I had my own community. We did different things. And then coming to university, nobody really prepares you for that like leap that
Yeah.
okay, welcome to the real world. This is basically where everybody's going to treat you like an adult. Okay.
Yes.
When you've come from nobody treating you like an adult, or people just kind of getting you ready for that adulthood and then boom, you're thrown into it. So
Yeah, the
I
transition.
think that exactly. So I think the challenge that I faced, and initially as well, right? The way my university worked back then was there's different colleges, so that's why I say big university feel. So you had to pick your college. And when I was picking my college, I didn't even have enough information because I didn't know anybody to ask, okay, what college should I pick? So I just picked the college that matched my high school name or my secondary school name. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. This could be a sign. wrong choice. Anyway, so I picked up that college and like I think my first week, maybe they were like, let's not even go to like Africans. Like my first week, maybe were like two of us that were black, literally,
Wow.
like in the whole college, or people that I guess those that were in residence and came that week for freshers, there were maybe like two of us that were black. And there's definitely nothing wrong with that, but I just didn't see like my representation around, okay, okay, this person looks like, they're also lost as me. Let me ask them questions
Mm-hmm.
that I can relate to or they can relate to. Where can I get African foods, for example? Where can I shop for, you know, African spices and different things? Because I also didn't come ready, like most people would come ready with all their food stuff. I didn't come ready, right? I wasn't prepared. So that having that challenge of not even seeing anybody that looks like me around or even seeing anybody to ask was definitely challenging my first week. Although luckily though I got lucky in my second week I met someone. Okay. In my second week I met someone and it was interesting because she wasn't even part of like the first week and I could tell that she wasn't a first year student. Okay, but she was around that first week. And it's so funny because we were still friends today and we laugh about it till today, but I thought she was a cafeteria worker. Don't even ask. So I was like, okay, I've not seen this person like the first couple of days. Where did they pop up from? And I figured like, okay, maybe they're, and I only saw her in the cafeteria. So I was like, oh, definitely a cafeteria worker because that first week, no other like left second year or third year student had not been in residence in that year. Only for me to find out that oh, she was actually a third year student and she just came early, I
Mm.
guess, quote unquote. She just came early to campus. And we became like the best of friends. Honestly, we clicked, and then she was later the one that kind of like got me introduced to more Nigerians, more Ghanaians, more African
Mm.
people, other immigrants at the university, and then I kind of started developing or finding my own community through her. So I definitely thank her for that experience as well. I think even the culture of like the food was something different for me because I come from eating a certain type of food, and I'm also not very picky with food, honestly speaking, but I struggled a lot eating like university food, like residence food. The breakfast I didn't mind because it was like, I mean, bread, eggs. There's only certain ways you can make breakfast food. But like for lunch and dinner, I definitely struggled. So I found myself like eating out a lot, snacking a lot. Because then I also couldn't cook because we didn't have like a full kitchen. We had a kitchenette, but not a full kitchen where you could say, okay, let me go and cook my own food. So that was definitely another struggle for me. They say, oh, people put on the freshman 15, like, in your first month, you put on like 15 pounds. Yeah, I lost weight in my own first
Oh,
month. So
is that a
I
thing?
didn't put on any. Oh, yeah, they say people like freshmen in university, like, you put on like at least 15 pounds in your first semester. That's
Wow.
like a thing that people say. So it's called like freshman 15. I didn't put on any freshman 15. I lost weight.
I lost so much weight.
Exactly. I lost so much weight. And then like it's also like coming from like I went to like a small secondary school, I would say. Like it wasn't big compared to other people's secondary school. Like my classes were maybe like 20 students, 15 to 20 students max. And first year big
Hmm.
universities, you're seeing like 400 people in class,
Yep.
400 to 600 people in class. So like I went into like my first year biology class and it was like in a kind of a stadium like room called convocation hall. That's literally where they do convocation and that's where biology was. So entering, you're like, okay, where do I sit? I don't know anybody here. Like there's so many people. No one even asked any question because it's too big for you to ask questions. So everybody's just, take their notes and then everybody kind of leaves. So again, I couldn't find my community. It was hard for me to make friends in that aspect. So it was just one of those things where, just suck it up and hang in there and be calling your friends across the country. At least now you have a phone, be calling your friends across the country, be messaging people, be
Hmm.
WhatsApping people here and there, texting people, use Facebook when I used to use Facebook back then, use Facebook and message your friends. I kind of just keep that international friendship as opposed to like creating new
Hmm.
community where you were, right? Uh, so I think that those are one of the challenges that I face. So in my academics, even making a community of student friends that I could study with, people that understood me, understood my culture, where I was coming from, people that understood my background, my foods, my likes, my dislikes, and also even finding like a local church for me was very challenging. I don't think I found one until
Mm.
like my second year in Toronto. I think it was my second year that I finally like found the church that I liked and I started going to. Because apart from that, like the first year
Yeah.
was a struggle. Just put it that way. But when I went for my master's, though, I think it was a bit of a different experience because although I moved to a city where I knew nobody, okay, I moved all the way to Saskatchewan and I knew nobody there. Um, I kind of already had an idea of what to expect. what to expect, what to look out for, how to make friends, how to form my own community. I had already had that experience from Toronto that I knew that okay, I could transfer this to Saskatoon and learn from things that didn't work out the first time around. So even though I didn't go alone, I took my sister along, even though she wasn't a student. I dragged her along to like my first week of school. I said, "You must follow me because she's very sociable." But okay, you must follow me and help me make friends. And I remember her last day, she was like, I'm leaving, right? I'm not a student here, so you better make friends on your own, otherwise you're on your own." And that was like, oh shoot, okay. And then I met like some really nice people then, and we're still friends today. I tend to keep a lot of friends actually. We're still friends today. So I'm definitely thankful for that community that I didn't have initially in Toronto. And kind of, I did develop that later on in Toronto. It's like my final years of school, my final 2 years of school for sure. Um, Saskatchewan, a little bit of a different experience because I was more familiar with what to expect. And did better, did the best I could to overcome those challenges of loneliness. Because I tell you, like, if someone isn't an extrovert or someone isn't outgoing, it's very, very hard for them to actually make friends and, find that community because no one's really just going to come up to you and say, "Oh, hello, how you doing?" You
Yeah.
have to make the effort. That's what I've learned. You have to kind of make the effort, even though it's maybe small talk initially. You have to put yourself out there and make the effort. Otherwise, people will just leave you by yourself in your corner, and you will suffer alone in silence. Yeah.
The loneliness and the desire for community, like those are the main things. And I find that with all the people I've talked to,
Mm-hmm.
that's just the thread. That's a recurring thread of like feeling lonely, needing community, desiring community, needing like building that, deciding what it looks like for you and trying to build it somehow. But yeah, like that's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Tell us about your PhD experience.
Yeah, so my PhD experience was actually a lot different than both of them. And I say that because I did my PhD while working full time. So I was kind of also busy and occupied in the sense of actually trying to make an effort to make friends on campus. I'm going to say that, okay? Just because I was, trying to juggle everything together. So I didn't really put in a lot of effort into my PhD in making community because I already had my work community or my work friends in the city. And also like my church friends in the city, I should say. I already knew where the grocery store was because I lived in the city at that time before I even started my PhD. I knew where things was. I was also mobile. I was driving, so things were a little bit easier, in my PhD. But I did see, students struggle, like international students that had come for their masters, and did struggle initially, And I did my best to, pay forward, help people, like tutor people for free and just help them kind of understand the way things work at the department or the faculty. Help them even if it's just giving them a ride on a very cold night. Like just help people as much as possible as I could. Because I've been there, I know what it was like. So at that point, me being a little bit, definitely more settled than where I was when I was an undergraduate student. It was I guess, a more fulfilling experience for me as a PhD student than being a master student or even being an
Yeah.
undergraduate student. Yeah. So it got better.
Yeah, each new experience building on the last one, what you learned, what you know now, and what you know you can do
Hmm.
better, and also knowing and like it was so glad, like I'm so glad for you that you actually had a sister you could bring along for your first week. Like when I moved here, I moved with my mom, and like obviously she couldn't go to class with me or try to make friends with me because like that would kind of be weird.
Yeah.
But it was some people move by themselves. Like I'm very grateful for you sharing that. Not a lot of people talk about like the reality of like, yo, it was lonely. Like that loneliness, like people hardly talk about it, and it's very real. It's very real and understated. Like no one ever prepares. Like everyone's like, oh, I'm moving, I'm moving to Canada. Oh, I'm in the abroad. Oh, I'm, going to school and da da da. But no one ever talks about like, oh, it's kind of
Hmm.
lonely here, and if you don't know someone, having to like find out everything by yourself, step by step, it can be very hard, and you will make mistakes.
It's
Like I
hard. It
remember the
will.
first time I was going to Walmart and I did not know how to stop the bus. Chinenye, I rode to the end
Hmm.
of the line. I rode to the end of the line, like when the bus was good, like the drivers were gonna switch out, and then eventually I saw people like I saw how they were stopping the bus by like pulling the yellow thread, like string or whatever, and like my friend told me, "Oh, just go to Walmart. People normally come down Walmart. You won't need to even stop the bus." She lied. She lied because
And nobody
nobody
came
came
down.
down, and I rode all the way to the end of the line. And then coming back now, I had a better idea, and so I was able to stop the bus. But that was one of those experiences that's like, wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
so let's
it
talk about the
happens.
mental health aspect of it. I know that like that is one of the things that you are passionate about as a professional and as a person, and I want you to talk about that, like because it's not talked about enough, is the mental health aspect of being an immigrant, and how your mental health kind of takes a blow, like it takes a hit when you move and you're trying to kind of have hold on to your sense of self and sense of identity, but sometimes it's not easy, and sometimes they completely collapse and you have to build them all over again from scratch. So yeah, please talk about that.
So I think the mental health is definitely a key component, I would say. We come from a culture where we don't really recognize mental health as a whole. Um, and not even that society doesn't recognize it, but we ourselves, there's also that self recognition piece of mental health that
Mm,
a lot of people actually don't have. A lot of immigrants actually don't have. They may say, "Well, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling down," but they actually don't even know what's going on with themselves. So we can't, I don't always blame society. I always, there's still a part that we individuals have to take in recognizing, the symptoms, our moods, how we're feeling, to be able to even determine it or call it mental health, as people call it. But yeah, I think definitely the mental health component is a big one, because a lot of, like, research out there has shown that like social support is the
mm,
key contributor for mental health. Having that social support, that community that we spoke about earlier, social support, having family or friends in the city is a big contributor to,
mm,
immigrants' mental health as a whole. Um, so I think definitely, like, for me, um, I would say that I did not experience, like, depression in that sense, but I think I definitely had like bouts of anxiety as to certain things, like, even like my grades in school, like, oh my gosh, I'm calculating and I'm very meticulous when I'm calculating, like, okay, 10%, I have
wow.
8% of 10%, I have 5% of 4% of
Yeah.
5% if I fail this and all of that. So in that aspect, trying to like be an overachiever at the same time, study for classes at the same time, have my own community at the same time, make friends at the same time, try and do sports or try and be healthy or try and be fit. It's
Hmm.
just so much going on at the
Yes.
same time for an individual, right? And we don't really realize that, okay, sometimes maybe we just need to
Hmm.
let a few things go and even just slow down. Like, we always want to be like on the go, on the go, on the
Oh
go. And that
yes.
again also puts a
That
toll on us,
overachieving thing, please,
you
can we
know?
just talk about it a little bit more for a second? Because
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, it's a very real thing, especially for immigrants. It's like you have to go above and beyond. It's almost like a psychological layer to it of like, I need to prove that I belong here. I found that that was my experience in a lot of ways of like,
Mm-hmm.
there are all these people that, don't know my background, or I'm new and I feel, yeah, I'm like the one of two black people in an entire class of, like you said, 400 people. You know what I mean? So like that needs to go extra hard, and you also of course don't want it to be like your parents have wasted money, right? There's that layer of like the, doing your
Mm-hmm.
parents proud, so that it won't be like they're spending all this money to put you through school and you are what? You're feeling what? All those different layers, and then of course being healthy, because as before your aunties will see you and say, you're adding weight. So are you eating burger? Is he ice
Sorry.
cream and burger you're eating in Canada? Like there are all these things that just that add to it, right? And then of course you have to have a
Mm-hmm.
social life, because
Oh
now
yeah.
you're a young woman. When will you marry and bring on child? Like, so all those things, all you're laughing, but it's true. It's true. Like all those things add up, and that overachieving, it like you that anxiety that comes with like
Mm-hmm.
realizing that you're only a human being, you're not perfect, like body no be firewood, like how let's talk about that a bit more.
No, no. I think the overachieving part actually, I just want to say that that never goes away. Even,
It's still here,
now,
yes.
honestly speaking, that never
Yes.
goes away. Even in the workplace, it maybe just looks different. But even in the workplace, like today, I still feel like I'm an overachiever. I always want to, like, do things a certain way and, meet my milestones
Yeah.
and, prove that I'm supposed to be here. So that never goes away. But definitely, even as an immigrant student, I think the challenge there is, people see like, okay, this is how much that I've paid for fees. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot afford to fail this course, because if you fail, there's
Mm-hmm.
no refund. You're not getting your money back.
Yeah.
It has gone. It has gone. So people also look at that and be like, okay, I need to do my best. I need to, even if it means I don't sleep, I don't eat, I don't do
Yeah.
this, I pull an all
Yeah.
nighter. I need to get this done. And honestly speaking, I think it's something where you just learn to sometimes
Mm-hmm.
look after yourself, do the best you can, and just leave the rest. Because I tell people, like, truth be told, yeah, do your best definitely, but in life, a 4.0 isn't going to get you anywhere in life. And I stand by that. Anybody that wants to debate with me, like I'm literally going to stand by that statement, regardless of what everybody says. But I think a 4.0 isn't going to get
Yes.
you the best job in life. It's not going to get you everything you need in life. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be that balance. Okay, and that balance cannot be at the expense of your health or your mental health. You have to always find that
Mm-hmm.
middle ground, that fine middle ground, and do the best you can because we're all humans. And I tell this to like my younger cousins that are now in undergrad and going through the whole experience. And sharing a personal story here. Like my baby cousin called me and she's crying. And first of all, I tell people when you're texting me, get to the point. Then we can then get into the details. Don't go around, telling me ring around the rosy stories. Get to the point. She messaged me that was very urgent. She wants to talk to me, and I'm thinking, what did this girl
Oh.
go and do? Did she go and get pregnant? Like, what's so serious? Only for her to tell me that she wants to drop a course. And I'm like, is that why you were telling me all this as if somebody died? I said, okay, why do you want to drop the course? She told me, I said, okay, drop the course.
Yes.
And she was like, really? I
Exactly.
said, yeah, what do you want me to say? Drop the course if you know you're struggling. Like, so I mean, even that fear. So she even had like that fear of like, oh, I'm an overachiever.
Mm.
What would they say if I drop this course? Or, it's a waste of money. Yeah, unfortunately, money has gone in that aspect, but at the expense of your mental health and your own health, I choose you dropping the course than, you losing your mind over
Yes.
over school or over a course. So, and it just brought me back to, my own time as a student and very similar experiences. So a lot of experiences actually are
Mm-hmm.
they just show up in different ways, but they don't really like
Yeah.
that experience is still the same. It's still there. Or the high level experience as a whole, as you would define it, is still there, trying to be an overachiever from a very young age up until, even adulthood, and we're still always, trying to be overachievers. Back then I went to one it was like an event. I don't even remember. And this is why I tell people also get information is good, but the right information is best, right? I tell people I went to something back then, and the person was saying, how can you only be taking 4 to 5 courses? In Nigeria, we took
Mm.
13 courses, we took 14 courses. And I'm like, excuse me? Great, that's in Nigeria. But here, 3 courses alone, 3 to 4 is like the max.
Exactly.
Don't push yourself, don't kill yourself. You can't even compare the coursework here to that in Nigeria. You know,
It
13 courses per semester
is not
here does not
possible.
make
Yeah.
sense. It's not even possible for you to do 13 courses in one semester. The maximum 5. If you push yourself, maybe 6. But I tell people to always kind of find that fine balance within 4, like
Yeah.
3 if you can, 4 if you really are able to push yourself. But don't go more than 6 and be saying, oh, because in Nigeria I was doing a 13, I was doing 10. And these are people that have started university in Nigeria and then, moved to Canada. And they think they can still do that 13, 12 courses, 6 courses. It's not possible. Don't kill yourself. So again, like getting information is not enough, but getting the right information. Because this is somebody in Canada that was telling them these things. Somebody that's already in Canada that's telling them these things. Went to university in Nigeria. They know university in Canada, but he's a Nigerian telling them all this. And
Not
I'm like,
possible.
it's not possible, oh. Don't be deceiving yourself because the moment you pay and you don't pass that course, you've lost your money.
You've lost your money and then you've brought down your CGPA.
But yeah,
Exactly. You've shot yourself in the foot because
exactly.
in my undergrad, you're right. We did 10, 12, 13 courses at like in one semester at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came here for my master's program and I found out that I only had to do 4, 3, 5. At first I was like, wait, is this right?
Mm-hmm.
If someone could literally interview my supervisor from when I came here, you would just laugh. Like you would just laugh at Sarah. It's stories on stories. Because the kind of questions I'll ask, you would think that I'm sorry, you went to a school, right? I did, but it was very different. You know what I mean? It was very different. So I'm
Yep.
like, oh, it's just 3, 4, 5 courses. Like, oh yeah. Like, is that enough? Or do you need to drop one? I'm like, it's enough. It's fine. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, even coursework alone looks a little bit different because here you're seeing, you have like 5 quizzes, one
mm-hmm.
group project, one presentation, one midterm, one exam. So there's different components of
Yes.
within that one course in itself that alone can, make you tired and drive you crazy than opposed to you taking like, multiple courses that all have that different
Yeah.
subcomponents in the course that you still have to meet, to get the overall grade. So it's just finding that balance really and looking after
Yeah.
yourself, honestly speaking. Another thing that that comes to mind now is like the environment as well is different from where people are immigrating from, right? So if you immigrate in the winter, people don't know that it's best to go on vitamin D.
Mm.
And a lot of physicians will tell you this, like get vitamin D because in the winter you're coming from where there's sunshine every single sunshine is there till 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And in the winter, like
Mm.
4 p.m. is already dark, and that
Mm.
affects your mood, right? So a lot of people will go on vitamin D in the winter for mood regulation, right? They advise people to go on vitamin
Oh.
D to regulate your mood in the winter because you wake up, it's dark outside. You go to school, immediately you come out of class, it's already dark outside. Winter, like, that's the winter month. So that alone adds to people's like, and when it's that, where are you going
Mm-hmm.
to see friends to make? Like, everybody's already in their little bubble
Yeah.
in the winter, in their little cliques. So it's hard. That again contributes to more isolation, right? So even, finding as much as possible, trying to find something you like, be it a
Mm-hmm.
hobby or a physical activity, to find that balance always goes a long way. Because if you just focus on school, 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 you're going to lose your mind eventually, or even just be tired.
I didn't know that vitamin D, like it's recommended during the winter, especially for new immigrants. I did not know. So me, that
Yeah,
I'll just be moody. I'll just be like, is this how life in Canada? You won't know
I
why.
won't know
Like you will not be able
why.
to articulate that. What's really going on? You will not really. You won't have the vocabulary to even know that. Wait, like this is how I'm feeling. Let me go and seek help, or let me go and find vitamin D, or you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. And like back to like the mental health aspect of things, like therapy is just one kind. It's a taboo topic amongst a lot of Africans, especially immigrants. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's that idea that mental health is all in your mind, like you're just you're exaggerating, or go and pray, or go and read your Bible. Oh, don't you know the God you serve? So like there are different, like so many
Levels.
levels to it, and there's so
Mm-hmm.
many things that people kind of use to explain it away, and there's so many things that people use to kind of like use a band-aid over it, like it's not really in your mind. Just go and recite Psalm 23 and you'll be okay, you know what I mean? So it's one of those like
Mm-hmm.
things that, especially as a new immigrant trying to find your way, it can be very hard and very tricky, especially if you're feeling like, oh, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. And moving from a home, from a country, you're leaving family, you're leaving friends, you're leaving a life that you've known, you're leaving a part of your history, and trying to, move ahead and build a life somewhere else. So like you're grieving. Like whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you wanted to jackpot or not,
Oh
you
yeah.
are grieving. You are grieving the life that you've known. You're grieving your childhood. You're grieving your friends, your family,
Mm-hmm.
the life that you have known for how many years. You're grieving all that when you move. So that is a very, very big part of it that people don't really acknowledge, right? Everyone, there's just this assumption that, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you're in there, brother, thank God, though. Like it's almost like this performative gratitude that's just expected of you, that, oh, you should be happy that you're here, oh, you should be grateful. So like regardless of what you're
You're
going through,
there,
like you
yeah.
should be
Oh
happy, you
yeah.
should just be grateful that you are there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and that's why I definitely give kudos to like immigrant
Mm.
moms that are students. Because man, like after I go to class, I'm already tired. I cannot imagine doing all of that and coming home to
Oh
take care
my
of a
goodness.
child or a little one or children. I think I will just lose my mind. So I always give it to them literally when I see them on campus, and I know that, they have a newborn or they have a young baby and they're still out
Mm-hmm.
there doing their thing. Like I always literally give it to them because it's not easy. Like it's definitely
Yeah.
not easy for them, I would say. So there's that also like aspect, and they just had a baby
Mm-hmm.
or just had a baby within a year. They're also a student, they're still also a new immigrant on top. So
Yes.
that's like multiple layers. And that's why I'm also very passionate about my research area, like maternal
Yes.
depression among African immigrants. Um, because again, I've seen like a lot of struggles. I mean, even within African immigrants, and be it like new immigrants or long term immigrants that are here, very similar experiences actually, truth be told. The only difference is that the more long term immigrants have kind of developed their
Mm.
community or their support as opposed to new immigrants that don't have that support, that having a mom, having a family member, having that community that would help you raise your child or look after your child or just hold my child. I want to go and sleep or hold my child. I have class, so I need to do
Mm-hmm.
this. I need to do that. They have to balance all of that, and I give it to them because it's insane. it's literally insane to do all of that. So kudos to all the African moms that are students. It's not easy.
On top of that, like there also is just a lack of opportunities sometimes for immigrants, and for like especially African or Black immigrants, whether it's scholarship opportunities, funding opportunities, whether as a student, even when you get out into the workplace, like not many people are even willing to give you a chance. Like after all that studying, after all that work you've done, after your 4.0 GPA, after
Mm-hmm.
everything, right? I heard this somewhere and it just broke my heart when I heard that sometimes, unfortunately, when a what is it, a HR person or a boss or whatever looks at your CV and they cannot pronounce your name, they toss your CV aside. So my name, because I'm not English,
Mm-hmm.
because I was not born in, even there are people of color that were born here, they're Black, African, Nigerian people that were born here, but because my name is Chukwuemeka Odinaka, I cannot get a job. People are not
Yeah.
always open. Please talk about that. I just need you to talk about your experience with it.
I think it's definitely interesting, right? In terms of the opportunities, what I always advise people, tell people is, as much as in Nigeria we say, oh, connections, you have connections. Canada also works like connections. I'm sorry to say, and not even the sense of somebody, but for people putting a face to your
Yeah.
name, it goes a really long way, right? As opposed to just submitting your resume or putting your resume in a resume bank, having that community networking or having people speak for you or speak for your skill set goes a very long way
Mm.
than just submitting your resume, right? So I always tell that to people: try as much as possible
Network,
to
yes.
network, go to networking events, be friends with your professors. Yeah, you may not like them or you may not love them, but just make sure that they know you and they know your name and they know who you are. By I think they can, out of a group of 400 students, they can pick you out and say this is Chinenye or this is this person. And that takes some learning or some coaching for people to be able to
Yes.
get comfortable with. But besides that, though, like, the government here also works a lot on data-driven decisions. Like, they make a lot of decisions based on data-driven decisions. People have heard it multiple times, but that's really the fact. For anybody to release money, they need to see a data to prove that this is a need, or this is a concern, or this is a growing area, or this is a gap. If there's no data, it's very, very hard for someone to say, okay, here's money, go enjoy yourself, or go
Mm-hmm.
do what you want to do, or here's money for a need-based, scholarship, or here's money for a scholarship for an African student, or here's money for an African, immigrant to run a program in the community or an African organization. They always need to see data that, okay, this is actually
Wow.
a need in this community, right? And so that's on the sponsor or the funder's part, you know. But on our own individual parts, I tell people as much as possible, try if you see, and some of them may be annoying, let me be truthful with you, but if you see, someone that's doing research for your community, it's always best to try as much as possible to fill that person's survey or do the person's interview or help the person out as much as you can, because you're contributing to data driven
Mm.
decisions for your community. You're contributing to the knowledge that's out there. And knowledge being, like, I'm sorry to say, but peer reviewed
Yes.
manuscript published knowledge. Because, that unofficial, oh, we know that this is the problem in the community. How do you know? It's what they're going to ask you. You can't say, oh, my friend told me, or based on the people I've interacted with. They want to see that you've actually
Mm.
sampled wide, and there's that similarities in the issues that people are highlighting. Otherwise, nobody's going to
Wow.
release you money. I'm sorry to say, and that's why I always point to the Southeast East Asian community. They have some good funding for them to do like a lot of community programming, and that's because they have a lot of data for their community that's available out there, right? So we as immigrants, I'm speaking specifically now, we as African immigrants, we need to do our best to also, those that are doing research or those that are in the academic field or students, if they tell you, oh, choose your own research topic, try as much as possible to research your community. I'm sorry to
Mm-hmm.
say, but that's just the truth. Try as much as possible to research your community or do something that ties in or that your own community benefits from, because
Yeah.
it goes a really long way, right? So for my research, for example, I remember when I started my PhD and I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go with my PhD, right? Initially, I was like, oh, I'm just going to do every immigrant, mental health in all immigrants, because that's what I did in my master's at that time. So I was like, oh, I want to do something similar to this. And then I thought about it, and then at that time, um, I thought about it. And I'm like, why do I really want to do all immigrants? Really, all
Mm.
immigrants is not my interest, right? Because I'm like, okay, so that data showed that you know, immigrants are more likely to consult with psychiatrists than like a family doctor or a mental health therapist for their mental health needs, right? And we know that in Canada, like, to see a psychiatrist, you need a referral, you need like a specialist, like you've gotten to an advanced stage of illness for them
Wow.
to tell you to go see a psychiatrist, right? So we're seeing a lot of immigrants going to see a psychiatrist for mental health needs, and not enough going to see like their family doctors for mental health needs. But for non-immigrants, it's the other way around, right? A lot of non-immigrants are seeing their family doctor or therapists for their mental health needs and not seeing psychiatrists. So you can kind of infer from that non-immigrants, you know, they enter the mental health
Mm.
system a little bit early
Right.
in that prevention stage, as opposed to immigrants that enter the mental health care system at an advanced
Wow.
or later stage of illness, right? And mental health is a continuum, right? If you don't address the problem early on, it goes
Yep.
into more complex issues, right? So that was interesting. I said to myself, okay, that data set that I used at that time, which was the Canadian Community Health Survey, to wait, survey that surveys like, Canadians as a whole. And I looked, okay, what exactly, how many black people answered the survey? That's why I started from. And it wasn't that much. It was like, I think
Wow.
1%, 0.1 or something like that. And I said, okay, within these black people, how many are Africans? And I couldn't even tell. There wasn't enough data to tell how many of those respondents were actually Africans or African immigrants. So I told my supervisor at the time, I said, you know what, this is what I want to do. And unfortunately, there's no data out there. So I'm going to have to collect my own data. And she wasn't really happy about that, I would say. Like, oh, that's going to take so much time. Why do you want to do that? That's not, a very important topic, right? And I said, look, the truth is that we did actually argue about that. Like, there was a lot of back and forth, I can tell you. There was a time where our relationship was very rocky
Wow.
because of my research topic. Okay. She wanted me to do something that was more straightforward and something that there was already data out there so that it's simpler. And I give credit to her for that. She wanted my journey to be a smoother one. But I felt, I'm already employed. This PhD is not really my life. So I actually want to take my time and do something that I,
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy or something that would actually be
Yeah.
beneficial for my own community, right? I told her, I said, look, this is what I'm doing, and so let's just figure out how to move
Mm-hmm.
forward from this aspect. And after a while, we kind of, got over it and moved forward. And so because there wasn't any data out there, I had to go out and collect my own data. And I remember the struggles at the time. Oh my, but thank goodness for like, my community, my friends, my family, people that really supported me in getting the word out there that, oh, there's somebody doing this research on this topic. Please fill the survey or please do this. Please reach out to her. Please do this. So there was a lot of, help that came
Mm-hmm.
for me at that time. And I had big dreams, and then the pandemic
Yeah.
happened. So I was like, oh shit, everybody literally went indoors,
Wow.
everybody went extinct. So it was even a lot more challenging for me to even reach people. But did the best I could at the time. So where am I going with that? I'm just saying, like, having data can then help inform policy decisions. Okay, so having that data can help inform policy decisions. Policy decisions are in the
Mm.
country are all data driven. Nobody's going to make a policy based on
Wow.
opinion or personal experience, right? So as much as possible, we need to kind of also know the kind of society that we work in.
Mm.
It's a data-driven society. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, what to say about that. It really depends. But we have to do our very best to contribute to data and contribute to data for your own community so that your community, when we say, okay, or when we approach a funder and we say, okay, the African community in Calgary, for example, needs $50,000, and
Mm.
this is why we need $50,000. This is the background research that has been there to show that this need is very, essential. It's a very critical need. For them to release the money, if I go up to Trudeau today and I say, oh, I need $10,000 because my friend had a baby and my friend is
Are you
struggling, he'll
normal?
look at me like, are you okay? But exactly. But if I say, I've done a study and this is what it showed among this sample of African women in Alberta, and this is the issues, and this is what we want to do to address this issue. We're looking for funding, we're looking for money for this. They're more likely to release that money to you because you have that backing, right, for your money. So that kind of just comes into play in thinking about that aspect of having the importance of having data to back initiatives for the community as a whole.
Like, round of applause because that was so informative. Like, I did not know. Like, I thank you because you just poured knowledge into my little cup here, and I did not realize how heavily, our society here in North America, Canada, like relied on data for
Mhm.
policies. Like, this is new information to me for real, and I'm sure to a lot of other people because you just assume, systematic racism. Oh, they don't. There's lack of opportunity. Oh, they're trying
Exactly.
to hold us back. And you just
Hmm.
assume all these horrible things, and part of it. My enemies
All
in
my
my village
enemies,
have
yep.
met me in Canada. You know what I mean? And but I mean, not to completely disregard systemic racism that exists. Let's not get it twisted. It exists. But part
Hmm.
of our duty, part of our work, right, in making things better for us, for our communities, for our future, our children, is actually getting more involved in data, right? Actually being a part of collecting data and it's almost like showing proof to the government. See, you see, Black people are
Mm-hmm.
underfunded, and these are the, this is the proof. These are the, you know, evidences or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
thank you for just pouring that knowledge into me today, into us, including the listeners here, because I did not know. I did not know. But that's why you're the doctor. That's why you are the doctor here.
And one more thing to add though, and not just even in this, people may say, okay, I'm not in the academic scene, I'm not doing research. But even something as simple as you attending an event, like an African event or a community event, a Black community event, and they send you like a satisfaction survey
Oh,
after. I always tell people, please try and fill that for them, because try and contribute to that survey, like fill that survey for them, because it could also go a long way for them when they're seeking funding to say, okay, these are the people that attended our events, these are the needs that those people highlighted, this is what went well, this did not go well. So I tell people, whenever people send me those, I attended an event, I always try as much as possible to fill their survey or
wow.
their exit survey that they send about their events. That also goes a long way, don't just ignore it and say, oh, I've attended the event, let
Yeah.
me just delete this one. If you have the time, and please have the time to just take some seconds to fill that survey for that event, it goes a long way, and people don't
Yes.
also realize that
So
as
it's not
well.
even just about waiting to actually be an integral or core part of such a research. It's just the bare
Mm-hmm.
minimum, like, filling surveys. Like that also goes a long way. Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is good to
Oh yeah.
know. And I hope, this will inspire some of our listeners to be more proactive or be more active in actually trying to create a better future and a better direction for our community. Wow. This has been
Mm-hmm.
amazing, Chineye. Thank Dr. Chineye. My bad.
Yeah.
Dr. Chineye. Thank you so much for the time and energy and information that you've poured into us today. And before you leave, I just want you to give us a little nugget of wisdom, something that we can carry with us and just be like,
Hmm.
inspired by Dr. Chineye.
So I think the first one is what I tell people is not all information is valuable. Okay. So there's a lot of naysayers out there that people are going to tell you, oh, you can't do it. Oh, applied for this and oh, this and all that. Still attempt to do it. You're not qualified for that job posting that you see. Still apply for that job posting, because honestly, they don't find that person they're looking for. They're going to go for the next best
Hmm.
thing. And that may be you. So not all information out there is valuable information. Make sure you're only
Wow.
taking valuable information. And the only second thing I tell people is, just look out for each other. I'm sorry to, like, sometimes people may be difficult, but don't transfer that difficultness of one experience that you had, or one African or one Black person that you had, to everybody and say, well, I want to avoid Black people. I don't want to have anything to do with
Mm-hmm.
Nigerians. I don't want to have anything to do with people. Try as much as possible to look out for each other. Like, look out for community, look out for your own community, be that support for somebody else, and they may not essentially be your friend, but you see someone struggling, help them, or provide a helping hand to people, because honestly speaking, and don't expect anything in return, right? But just know that you're doing good and you're doing your best, or you're contributing to
Yeah.
your community as a whole. And it goes a long way to just be kind, just be kind as best as possible. So I think those are the only nuggets I have to drop for today.
Yes, thank you for the nuggets of wisdom. Thank you for being a part of this conversation. And yeah, well, tell the people how they can find you on the internet.
So on the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram, although I don't really post much on my Instagram, I would say. But the best way to find me is LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Chinenye on LinkedIn, Chinenye, and my last name, okay. Um, Feel free to also find me if you're in the academic field. You can always connect to me, like through my manuscript. My email is there, as well as my phone number. So yeah, so feel free to reach out to me. We can always chat. We can always connect. I'm always looking to connect with people in the community that have similar interests, and people that are always doing exciting things for the community.
Thank you again for being a part of today's episode. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm sure our listeners are also very grateful to have you.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me, Sarah. Always happy to, see your face, see your beautiful smile as always, and chat with
Thank
you.
you. And this is it for this episode of Afros in the Diaspora podcast. And until next episode. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Afros in the Diaspora. I hope this episode left you feeling inspired and hopeful. To engage, feel free to like, follow, share, and subscribe to Afros in the Diaspora on all social media and podcast platforms, Remember to leave a review and a rating. If you would like to be a guest, please reach out. Send an email to hi@afrosinthediaspora.com. That is hi@afrosinthediaspora.com. Or send us a DM on Instagram at afrosinthediaspora. Remember, there is beauty in our stories and power in our voices. Together, we are stronger. Until next time.